Hey, what's up guys, my name is Crash, and today we're going to be talking about Elden Ring the Nightreign DLC, or expansion, whatever you want to call it, and see what the positives and negatives were from the network test, and coming to a conclusion if it's actually worth checking out or purchasing when the game officially releases. But let's get right into this. So what is Nightreign? It's a battle royale plus a little bit of a roguelite mixed together. On paper, that doesn't sound all too interesting, but when you actually get into the gameplay and all that, it's honestly really fun. I was genuinely surprised because when I first heard about this, I didn't think it sounded all too interesting. I was excited to see all the Souls bosses coming back in a different DLC or expansion, whatever it may be, but at least the gameplay wise, it didn't sound all too interesting. But once you actually get into the gameplay, it clicks immediately. It was so enjoyable, and pretty much the whole time I was playing, I was so regretful that it was going to be ending soon, and I wish I got more hours into it. Honestly, it was just that great. And when I was at work and stuff, I just wanted to go home and just play more of it, but sadly there were set hours and stuff for it. It makes sense why, because as you can see with the first day, if you've seen, literally no one could get on PlayStation. It was that many people trying to jump into the server to play it. And honestly, I can see why now. It was absolutely amazing. So what makes it so special? Let's talk about the gameplay. The gameplay for the game is more like the battle royale style, like I said. So pretty much there's like a zone that is going to be closing in, and you have 3 days to get ready for the last battle. So pretty much throughout like the morning time, throughout the day, you're supposed to go around the map killing a whole bunch of enemies while the zone slowly but surely ends up closing in on you. So at nightfall, you end up fighting a boss, and this has a different variety for it during the test, which was pretty cool. So with the first boss, you might be fighting the centipede boss, or you might be fighting 2 monkeys. While with the second night, you might be fighting the fell omen or the 3 tree sentinels, which is cool. I'm happy that there was some variety to the bosses, at least for the nighttime. But after you end up beating the boss, it just switches back to day, and then you go back to looting and grinding for more gear and hoping that you're going to be ready for the final boss. Because honestly, if you didn't get to the final boss or you didn't watch any gameplay on it, I'm not going to spoil who it is, but it was an amazing time fighting it, and I just wanted to get back into it and fight him again. I ended up fighting him twice throughout just the 2 days that I was able to get into it, and it just was insane, like how intense the fights were, and it just crazy how much this game can pull you in and make you want to play more. One of the reasons why that's the thing is because of the relic system that they added. This is where you can add like crystals to your character, and it just makes you stronger and better for at least the next fight that you end up doing. And so it's cool that there's some way of leveling and getting better for different types of fights. Hopefully when the game officially comes out, if you beat the final boss, there is a way to play like New Game Plus that adds more challenge, adds different crystals and stuff like that. I'll really enjoy that. But we'll have to see when it actually officially releases. What's the other stuff that makes it so special though? The class system, at least, is one of the major things in this game, and it is awesome. There's great classes, and we're going to get into that right now. So there was 8 classes in the game. Sadly, we only got to test out 4, but it makes sense because they don't want to show off everything that they have in the game, which is good because then we get to anticipate on what type of characters we might be able to play when the game officially launches. But let's get into the classes. The first class that you get to play is the Wilder. This one's pretty cool. He's pretty much the vagabond of the group. He is good for DPS, but he's also good at tanking, but he's not like the best out of the group for it. So he's like a good all-arounder if that's what you're looking for. He has a cool little ult where he shoots like a fireball out of his crossbow, which does a lot of damage and cause the enemy to end up breaking into a crit, which is really good for late game bosses or even early game enemies if you're having a hard time. They also have a grapple that lets you pull into different enemies, and it's pretty much just like a overall useful weapon to use during fights, and it can really help you save teammates if they get down or something like that, which is cool. The second class that you can play is the Guardian. He is the more tanky class. He is also the first time, from what I remember, to be something that is not human. He is a bird. I really like the look of him, and he just honestly is my favorite character, at least in the game so far. He is the tank character. He just eats a lot of hits, but he also does a decent amount of damage depending on how you build his character. Because, you know, with the enhancements and stuff, he doesn't only have to be the protection type character, but that's pretty much what he's for. He's pretty much to pull in the bosses, and people are supposed to direct at him, which is what you want him to do. The thing that makes him special, though, as well, is his 2 ultimates that he gets to do. He does a spinning attack, which does a decent amount of damage. I think it's one of the weaker attacks in the ultimate trees, though, sadly. But the other one, where he flies up into the air, is great for dodges. If a boss is doing dodges that you cannot handle, at least with your own skill set, it's good to get out of those types of attacks by just flying up into the air and moving out of the way from whatever attack they're throwing out. And it dishes out a lot of damage when he comes down and hits them. The next class you get to play is more like a Bloodborne style, which is awesome because it gets me excited for maybe we might be able to see some Bloodborne enemies or bosses throughout like later date when the game actually officially releases. This is the Duchess. This one is more of like the fast class. You're supposed to go in, get a lot of hits in, and she does a shit ton of damage. I mean, a lot. So if you're looking for a really good damage like output type character, she is great for that. She is terrible on health, though, so be mindful about what you do before fights, because at the beginning of the game, she is like 1 to 2 shot unless you level her up. So you have to be cautious, which is good because it makes it a little bit more challenging. But her ultimate is she can go invisible, and I'm blanking on the other one, but her one that lets her go invisible is honestly great because you can use that on allies as well, so it really helps with like boss fights. So you can dish out a lot of damage without the boss even doing any damage to you, and you guys can end up breaking the boss because of that, which we did multiple times when I was playing through it. We were able to just dish out so much damage, we were able to pretty much beat him right off the bat, which is awesome. And it's cool that you can build up to that type of like fighting. With like other games, usually they don't let you to, but because it is a roguelite, it's awesome to see that type of stuff being possible, at least from just playing through the DLC. The last class that you get to play is Recluse. This is my least favorite, and I think this is where my first issue with the game comes into it. This class doesn't seem great. Like, the issue is like, I'm fine with mages being in it. I've never been a huge fan of mages, but when I've tried her out, I tried her out twice. She's not strong, like in any way, shape, or form. The issue is with like her being like FP, like surrounded. Like you need to have FP to actually be good with her. There isn't enough that gives you FP. I think she should get like special flasks. Like she should get maybe 2 of the normal flasks and maybe 1 mana flask to like even it out, because you pretty much are going to have a terrible time unless you somehow find good builds for them, like where you do successive attacks, it gives you FP. I mean, I know her second ult that you get to use gives you a little bit of FP, and it builds up to like a major attack, which is cool. But aside from that, she's not all too great. She doesn't have that great of health. I had to use a sword most of the time with her, but when you do actually get some good spells for her staff, she does dish out a lot of damage. So once you actually can officially build it, maybe it's worthwhile to play the class, but at the beginning's sake, for like newer players, I would not recommend this character to anyone. But what about her other ultimate? It's honestly pretty cool. All she does is pretty much shoot out a whole bunch of spikes, so it's good to center yourself in a lot of enemies and use her ultimate, and it will wipe them out immediately. It's an awesome attack, and I honestly, it's probably one of my favorite ult looks because it just looks awesome, just seeing like all the spikes coming out of her body, like stabbing into a whole bunch of enemies around her. So let's get into some of the negatives. I know most of this stuff is going to be fixed by the time the game actually comes out, which is awesome. Network issues would be my first one. This is just because it is a network test, so this is something to be expected. Don't take this as like a really bad thing from me. Just take it with a little bit of grain of salt. I understand this is going to happen, mostly for our network tests, that we're going to have connection issues, but this is more for the PlayStation side because legit the first 3 hours that the game was out, it was not possible to play for almost anyone from what I've seen from streams and stuff like that, which really sucks. But aside from that, I understand it is a network test. This is what we are supposed to expect. You're expecting the servers not to work all too right, so I'll let them pass with that one because the game is not officially out. The other things that I had an issue with, honestly, are some of the bugs. Like in one of my clips from streaming, I was picked up and yeeted across the goddamn map. I lost all my runes and I lost level because of it. And I couldn't do much about it because it was a glitch. But it's not too major because it's one of those like tiny things that probably won't happen again. Like there's a couple other bugs I ran into, but none of them are all too major enough to like truly get angry about or be all too upset about. It's stuff that can easily be fixed. But aside from that, the only other issues I really had was kind of nothing, honestly. Those are like the only minute things I could really point out. Everything else was kind of fun. Like there's a pinging system. I know I seen this one person that made a video about the test saying that it was all terrible, like there was no pinging system and stuff like that. I guess they didn't really play all too far into it, so they must have never realized what type of systems are in the game. But honestly, I feel like this is truly good for like any Souls player that has played prior games. Like it's just a really fun co-op type. The only gripe I might have, but I don't really care, I'm going to purchase it anyway, is the price range. It's $40 for this, which is a bit steep for like a multiplayer centric game, mostly because we don't really know what else we're going to be getting boss wise or map wise. Like, are we only going to be playing on this map? If so, that is somewhat disappointing for a $40 price. And plus only 4 other characters. Those 4 other characters, don't get me wrong, might be the coolest thing I've ever seen. Like, I'm hoping to see Alexander the Jar as one of the characters to play. That'd be awesome. If you can have a bird, why can't you have a jar? But aside from that, I don't think they have much else to throw in aside from bosses and maybe a different enemy type. I'm just hoping there's a lot of maps as well, but we honestly can't tell just from what we played. But those are the only like major concerns I have with the $40 price range. And then they have, which is a little bit more concerning as well, they already talked about DLC, about like certain bosses, certain characters and stuff like that. Are these going to be later date or are these going to be at launch type things? I'm hoping it's a later date thing, like maybe like 5 to 6 months out for like $10. I'm completely fine with that. Like, I'm going to be getting the DLC version anyways, so I can test out every single thing that is in the game and also get like whatever special features or awards that we get for paying the higher price. But I feel bad for the people that cannot afford to just like throw it in another like, $10 because, it is pretty steep for like this type of game, if that makes sense. But who knows? There might be a lot more content that I'm not realizing yet because we, don't have full hands on it. None of us do. So we can't really tell if this is like the perfect pricing range or if this is actually way above what it's worth. But overall, I would highly recommend checking this out when it officially releases. It was honestly really entertaining. The price might keep you away. Maybe either buy it right off the bat or wait for reviews to come out and see if there was more to it that might actually end up pulling you in that makes you interested in the game. But if you guys enjoyed the video, make sure to leave a like and a sub. And if you have suggestions for anything else to check out, make sure to leave them down in the comments down below. I am going to be starting to stream a lot more often on the channel, so if you guys are interested in that, I'll catch you guys at one of those streams, or I'll catch you guys in the next video. See ya.